Hello everyone, it's Captain Sensible again, back on the show, and Mr. Smay's invited me to give you a quick review on this one before he starts his little video. So today we're going to be talking about Dolce & Gabbana The One by Versace. This one was released in 1974. It's a gourmand, that means it's a fragrance aimed at fat people. The main notes in this one are ginger, bergamot, tobacco, and Snickers bars. Now, I quite like this fragrance. I thought it smelled really nice, performed well, and it was quite a sexy fragrance. I actually felt horny most of the time when I wore it. So if I had to give it a mark out of 10, I would give it 8 out of 10, but I don't, so I won't. Now, speaking of horny, I was talking to my wife the other night, and she said she was a bit worried. She said, "Darling, is there something wrong? You don't seem to be showing much interest in making love to me recently. Is it because I've put on a bit of weight?" You know, she has put on a bit of weight since we got married. And I said, "Darling, no, it's nothing to do with that. You're perfect to me." So she said, well, what is it, darling? I said, "Well, it's not that you've put on weight or anything like that. It's just that last time we tried to make love, I climbed on top of you on the bed and I burnt my backside on the light bulb."
Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about my top 10 tips for buying fragrances. So when you get into fragrances, when you start watching YouTube reviews and get involved in the online fragrance community, it can be really exciting. And I think back, it wasn't that long ago that I really got into it, and I made a lot of mistakes buying things for much higher prices than I should have done, and maybe buying the odd thing that I shouldn't have bought at all. So I'm going to try and help you learn from my mistakes and those of other people, and give you some of the top 10 tips to get the best value for money and enjoy building your collection in a sensible, cost-effective way. So here they come. Number one then. My first top tip for buying fragrances is don't buy retail. Okay, so don't pay full retail prices for fragrances unless you absolutely have to, which in most cases you don't. For example, here is my Dunhill Icon 50ml, and I actually bought a 100ml backup bottle. Whether you should buy backup bottles, that's another question. But this bottle here cost me just, I think, £35 or something in that region. I think it was Notino, one of the online retailers. I'm not sponsored. That's 100ml, sealed, completely authentic. No worries there. To buy the brand new one in a store, it's going to be, I think, 70 something, might even be up to £80 now. So most things, particularly brands like Dunhill, not the most hyped up kind of brands, not the Dior's and the Chanel's, you can usually buy them online for much cheaper prices. An exception to that is Chanel, where it seems to be very hard to find their stuff discounted online. So if you really love a Chanel fragrance for men, sometimes that's one case where you might have to buy it for full retail, but there are other ways to get them, which we'll come to later. Okay. My number two tip is to sample things and don't blind buy things. Okay, so of course, blind buying a fragrance online. Some fragrances are cheaper online and you haven't had the chance to try them. If at all possible, make the effort and wait, be patient till you have time to go to a store that has it and try it out in the store and see if you like it. If it's a fragrance that you can't buy easily in shops, that's really only available online, try and get a sample. There are fragrance sample sites such as we've got Fragrance Samples UK, run by Greg of the Greggy Boy 76 channel. They sell most stuff that you're going to be interested in for really reasonable prices. If you just want a tiny 1-2 ml sample, it's a nominal fee to try it out and see if you like it. So instead of going out and getting that rush of blood to the head, you see a review, you think, oh, it's really good, I've got to have it. Don't do that. Sample things first, because I've saved myself money many times thinking, oh, that's the one, I'm going to really love that. And then I didn't buy it, luckily. Managed to stumble across it as a sample one way and another in Facebook groups. I'll talk about that later. And then I thought, oh, it's good, but it's not that good. And I saved myself a lot of money and trouble not buying things because I sampled them first. So if at all possible, sample things, don't blind buy them. There are a few exceptions to that. So, there are some fragrances that are really cheap and it's really hard to find anyone selling so you might not get a start. So you could risk it now and again, but try and make those blind buys low priced stuff, Bogart Prom, £15 in the UK. You might risk it there, but if possible, don't blind buy. Number 3 then, this is a good one. Don't buy overhyped, overpriced, discontinued or certain vintage fragrances. Okay, big example being La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent. Everyone knows the modern version is supposed to be a lot weaker than the older ones. The 2009 formula, you can buy that for really inflated prices on eBay. I've got a 2012 one here, and that again is going, 100 odd pounds on eBay for the bottle, kind of niche prices and upwards. I don't think in most cases they're worth the inflated prices. I managed to get this one luckily in a chemist where it was £40 for the 60ml. That's normal retail price, and I thought that was okay, but it's still, whatever batch you get, an old one, it's just a designer fragrance. The ingredients aren't that amazing, and in most cases where things have gone crazy with old batches, it's overhyped, it's not worth it. I've tried things like Gucci Envy where the prices are getting really high now. It's okay, but if I blind smelled it, I wouldn't think it was anything amazing. So stuff like Gucci Envy, even Gucci Pour Homme, if you stumble across it for a reasonable price on eBay or somewhere where someone's selling it, what would have been retail when it first came out, fair enough. But when it's going double that, niche prices and higher, I don't think they're usually worth it. You're usually going to be disappointed. So don't go for these overhyped ones. Likewise, certain Aventus batches where they're selling it for double, treble what the original fragrance cost, I really don't think that they're worth it, and I doubt that you'll notice the difference. Number 4, watch and read as many reviews as you can. So of course, do your homework. Have a look on YouTube. YouTube reviews can be really good, but the other one is really important is read reviews online. Base Notes and Fragrantica are really good. There's a few gibbering idiots on all of them, but if you scroll through, you'll recognise some names of good reviewers who do give thoughtful, reasonably concise and helpful reviews. So reading reviews of fragrances can be really helpful to get a better idea. Sometimes don't always trust YouTube videos too much because things do get hyped. The YouTube is a little bit, and I'm a YouTube reviewer, but it's a little bit more of a dumbed down form of media. We want things to be quick, immediate. We want people to be excited, watch the videos. So sometimes reviewers are not corrupt. They're not usually being paid to hype things, but they get excited. They see other people liking things. They get sent a free one. They want to like it. They're excited. So take things with a pinch of salt. I don't think many YouTube reviewers are dishonest or anything, but if suddenly something's been reviewed by 3 or 4 people in a week saying it's really good, just pause a minute, maybe wait till there are reviews on Base Notes and Fragrantica, get a more balanced view, and again maybe try it yourself. But read written reviews, they can be really helpful and give you more information in some ways than our YouTube ones, which can be helpful too. So of course keep watching us on YouTube, but take us with a pinch of salt. Number 5, my 5th tip. Join a Facebook group. Wherever you are in the world, there's probably a Facebook group near you, and they are really good places to interact with other fragrance enthusiasts. It's a really nice community. Most people are honest and trying to be helpful, and you'll learn a lot. You'll see people also selling stuff on most of the fragrance groups, and they sell stuff for great prices. The people are usually, there's a kind of atmosphere of trust, and people are not ripping each other off. Prices are usually really low. People are selling stuff second hand. You can get, it's great to get a partial bottle of something. Maybe there's only 30ml left in a 100ml bottle. You still get the presentation, the bottle, and people sell them on for really good prices, and I feel more confident often on there than eBay and places like that because there is an atmosphere where people trust and respect each other. So check out your Facebook groups wherever you are in the world, and I've got some great stuff on Facebook groups. For example, here's my Creed Royal Oud, which I've reviewed and said that I really like. Now you may have thought, well, he must spend a lot of money on fragrances, that's really expensive. It's more expensive than even normal Creed prices, but I got this for just, I think it was £100 on a Facebook group, and it's a nearly 120ml bottle. So that's an example of the kind of great deals that can be had. Someone must have taken a hit on that somewhere, but it's definitely genuine. Facebook groups are the way to go. Advice piece number 6. Buy one fragrance that you love instead of 3 or 4 that are just okay. Okay, so don't think that you have to keep buying fragrances every week. Don't buy things that are just a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, or oh, that'll be okay for daytime wear. You've probably got other fragrances already for that, and unless something's really good and you really like it, don't buy it. So if you're looking at fragrances, here's one that I've got. I'm kind of glad to have it for my channel because it's a well-known fragrance, but it was cheap. I got it second hand, but it's Dolce & Gabbana The One. I hardly really reach for it because it smells okay, it's not bad. So for most of us, you'd be better off not buying that fragrance, assuming you don't love Dolce & Gabbana The One, which I don't particularly. Save that money, put it to one side, save up for something that you really, really love. Better to have 3 or 4 great fragrances than 25 slightly okay ones. So, maybe put the money towards an established classic niche fragrance, Green Irish Tweed. that you'll really, really feel special when you wear. So buy one fragrance you love in place of 2, 3 or 4 that you think are just okay. All right. Next one is don't let your fragrance interest and hobby become an obsession. Don't become obsessed with fragrances. Don't fetishize any one fragrance. Don't think I have to have that fragrance. It's not an emergency. You've got a few fragrances probably. You've got something to wear to smell nice. Don't think if I only got that fragrance, I only got Creed Aventus, everything would be great. Trust me, I've thought that about fragrances. I get it. I'm not any happier the next morning when I wake up. Life goes on and it doesn't change things that much. Other people's perception of you is not based mainly on your fragrances. It's just one thing. If you've got 25 fragrances and only one scruffy jacket and a very poorly thought through wardrobe of clothes, that's not a good balance. So think about balance in your life. Don't let your fragrance hobby become an obsession. Enjoy it. Buy fragrances, but don't fetishize one fragrance or this fragrance or that fragrance. I've got to have it. I've got to get that fragrance. Everything's, I'm going to spend money that I don't have. Don't do that. Don't let it become an obsession. It should be a fun thing. Be in control of it. It's only a nice smell. Number 8, think about when you would wear a fragrance and do you need it? Do you have something else that you're going to wear in its place most of the time? Is it really going to be a useful fragrance that you're going to wear a lot? So for example, if you have and love Dior Homme Intense, and that's a 9, or let's say it's a 10 out of 10 to you, love it. And then you try Valentino Uomo Intense, and you really like that, but you're not sure if you really prefer it to Dior. Maybe you think it's a 9 out of 10, but the Dior Homme's a 10. Then you don't need the lesser version of a smell that's very similar. They have a very similar kind of fragrance DNA, these two. So unless you're like me and you've got a channel, maybe it's good to have as many as possible so you can wield them and discuss them and compare them. If you're a normal person wearing them for your own enjoyment and collecting for your own pleasure in wearing them, you probably don't need 2 very similar fragrances. So try and pick the one that is best for you. So you don't need 2 iris-based fragrances that are kind of metrosexual smelling, probably. Try and think, will I wear that in place of one that I've already got? So if this is a night out fragrance, when you want to feel kind of sexy in the colder weather, are you going to reach for the one that you slightly don't like as much over the one that's your favourite? Just have your favourite one and think, if it's a redundant purchase, don't buy it. Be strict with yourself. Next up, a really good tip, I think this one, consider discontinued fragrances that are under the radar on eBay. So buying on eBay can be really good, and consider stuff that's not the most obvious stuff. So, okay, yeah, we've all heard of Dolce & Gabbana by Man, but their prices are really inflated on that. La Nuit de l'Homme vintage versions getting really stupid on eBay because of the hype. Consider non-hyped vintage stuff. I got Boss Spirits, a really rare fragrance from 1989. It was £40. So that's less than the 100ml would have cost as retail probably when it first came out. It's a really good price. I wasn't paying an inflated price. And it's because I researched it and I was interested in this fragrance. It's not an obvious one. So I did my reading, I learned about fragrances and found this one. It's probably just as interesting, might be better than a La Nuit de l'Homme vintage or a By Man. So look for the under the radar stuff. Similarly, I got Monsieur de Givenchy vintage bottle there from years ago, a classic citrus aromatic. And it was, I can't remember the exact price, maybe £40 for, I think it's a 60ml bottle. That's really good value for money. It's vintage, it's sealed, it appears to be unopened, so it's in great condition. Go for the under the radar discontinued stuff. You might find it's absolutely just as good or better than the ones that people bang on about that have really inflated prices. Finally, number 10, the last one, don't ignore cheapies and designers and go straight into being obsessed with niche. Niche fragrances, generally speaking, cost an awful lot of money, and in some cases you are paying for higher quality ingredients and they're really worth it. But do not ignore really good designer fragrances that are still being released and the discontinued older ones that we've talked about. And cheapies. It's much more fun sometimes, or just as much fun, to order a really cheap fragrance online that you find you really loved. For example, Bogart Pour Homme that I absolutely adore. Really inexpensive fragrance. I get just as much fun out of that one as niche ones. Maybe the ingredients aren't as high quality, but the fun factor for me in owning it is good. So I feel sorry for people who are obsessed with Roger Dove or Xerjoff and they only buy these really high-end stuff. Their pocket is taking a hit on that. I like buying niche fragrances too, and I have some, but try and have a balanced collection. Cheapies can be just as much fun and just as popular with other people. The smell of cheapies and designer fragrances is designed to please the masses. Niche fragrances, not always. Some people might just think they smell weird. So the cheapies and designer. Don't ignore them because you'll be missing out. So those were my top 10 tips for fragrance buying, hopefully saving you a bit of money, making it more enjoyable for you, and making sure that you don't get obsessed or carried away or never get yourself in debt or anything like that. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what you thought of the video, and as ever, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. See you in the next video. Bye bye.